Cyclone Ialy struggling through the Seychelles on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for May 17th. So we have an active tropical storm, as we did yesterday just after the bulletin it got named. We are code blue for Cyclone Ialy as well. It could be providing some significant impacts to some of those small islands of the Seychelles in its vicinity. It's the 17th storm of the year so far. It's 15 days until Atlantic hurricane season and there's still nothing on the radar in the basin, which is obviously good news. There is a big storm off the coast of the Gulf Coast of the United States into the southeastern United States. Non-tropical, of course, provided severe weather across the south coast last night into this morning. It's day 3 of hurricane season in the eastern Pacific, and it looks like we're getting a little bit confuddled with the systems that are active there right now. The National Hurricane Center has 2 marked. We're marking the whole area still at 20% now, and model support has really tanked. In the western Pacific, similarly, we've still got 10% for this area of interest, but the signals are becoming even fainter now with the potential for this system forming, and there could be a good argument to scrub it completely at this point. And in the Indian Ocean, of course, the North Indian Ocean, there's no areas of interest, but you can see down the bottom there a little area there which is just south of the equator that we're going to be watching, but the cloud cover is increasing overall in the Indian Ocean, and of course it is starting to turn wetter. Leaving the southwest Indian Ocean, which is Cyclone Ialy there over the Seychelles, and a 20% chance that we've given to another area of interest that's developing that might be a little bit of a rogue storm there. Would be very brief spin up by the looks of things, we think. We'll have to wait and see. Let's take a look at Ialy right now then. It is just 65 kilometers from Isle Saint-Pierre, which is in the northwestern part of the Farquhar Island group. It's 304 kilometers from Astove, 375 from Antsiranana in Madagascar, 419 from Grand Terre, and 800 from Gran Comore, the largest island of the Comoros Islands, and its capital Moroni. You remember some of those places from our Hidayah updates, of course, and this one is not quite following in its footsteps. It's even further north and is likely to turn northwards before it gets to Grand Terre. Satellite imagery of the eastern Pacific shows a jumble of systems there and convective cloud tops and thunderstorms all across the region. Left hand side there is that other system National Hurricane Center marked, and on the right hand side, probably close to El Salvador, is the one that we've originally been watching, but there's all kinds of action going on in between there, and I think at this rate it looks like nothing will get the upper hand, although if anything I would say maybe the one on the left might have the best chance. Here's the Western Pacific system right now, and you can see some faint rotation, so that system is still definitely there, but it's not looking so good. By the way, Ialy, despite it being a tropical storm, isn't actually looking very good either. It's starting to get heavily wind sheared there, and its center of circulation becoming very exposed. The cloud tops are moving well towards the west, further than the center of circulation is. So unless it starts blowing up some convection soon, Ialy is going to have a real problem and could indeed dissipate earlier than expected. But there it is, moving westwards on various visible satellite imagery sources there, just passing the Farquhar group of islands and indeed heading towards Grand Terre. Certainly the convection has tapered off quite a lot on that latest imagery there on the water vapor, and also on this infrared shot as well. You can see those cloud tops have probably halved really over that 12-hour time period. Now this is Invest 93S, the other one in the South Indian Ocean, and there it is on the very edge of the Himawari imagery here on NOAA floaters, looking still quite disorganized and pretty broad. It's hard to tell, but maybe just a little bit of rotation there as well already, and some convection blowing up. Here's a visible /infrared of the Western Pacific system as well, 93W, and it's not doing very much by the looks of things. Looks even worse on the Force 13 website. floaters as well. You can check those out, force13.com/satellite. And general movement there, if it is, probably northwestwards, but convection is very limited, rotation is very limited as well, and so it really is struggling. If anything forms, it will probably still be about 3 days away, so keep watching that one. This is just showing those storms across the US right now, and big bursts of convection there, a massive one that's moving over the Florida Panhandle region, and a few following in behind over Mississippi and Alabama, providing some severe thunderstorms. Big area of rotation off the Atlantic as well, a non-tropical low. And looking at the Gulf of Mexico as a whole there, you can see more storms firing up across Texas today. I think we're in a slight risk today, unless they changed it. It might have been bumped up to enhanced. And looking at the Eastern Pacific there as well, the far east, showing that storm over Central America. And this is the Eastern Atlantic, where we'll start to see systems forming there soon, but certainly not yet. And a wide shot of the Eastern Pacific there, showing all of those little storms blowing up, thunderstorms and not yet tropical storms. Further out over the Eastern Pacific as well, not too much to look at there, apart from that system on the right. And this is the Western Pacific, showing lots of storms over the northern part of the Philippines, but in general they're still very dry. And the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, showing lots of precipitative clouds there, especially over southern India and over the Indochina region, eastern Myanmar through to Vietnam. Sea surface temperatures are continuing to improve in the Eastern Pacific, with temperatures up to 32 degrees Celsius off the coast of Guatemala, and the 26-degree isotherm starting to extend a little bit further up the coast of western Mexico. In the Atlantic, certainly the Gulf of Mexico is really getting there now. Almost all of the Gulf now is close to 26 degrees Celsius, and certainly the southern reaches are definitely there and above, the loop current up to 28 degrees. The Western Pacific also very warm here, the South China Sea near Palawan being the hotspot, around 32 degrees Celsius there as well. Philippine Sea really getting those warm temperatures extending out further north and east. Bay of Bengal, look at that, very hot there across the whole eastern part of the bay, extending all the way up to Bangladesh now, over 30 degrees Celsius over a huge area, and in the Arabian Sea quite similar as well. Southwest Indian Ocean, where this system is right now, Ialy, temperature a little bit cooler, around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, though warm as it moves further north again. And the other system, 93S, is currently over very warm waters of around 29 to 30 degrees. Off Australia, those temperatures are still starting to decrease. The Gulf of Carpentaria just about losing its 28 degrees Celsius areas there. It's just the coast off Western Australia now. And in the South Pacific, those temperatures slowly receding there as well, but I do say very slowly. So let's take a look at the anomalies. Definitely anomalously warm in the Bay of Bengal, up to 3 degrees above average. Where Ialy is right now, it's around 2 degrees above. In the Western Pacific, generally a little bit above. In the Atlantic, certainly in the deep tropics, it's extremely warm compared to average, 3 degrees above near the Leeward Islands and out towards the main development region. And in the Gulf of Mexico, a few hotspots there as well. Eastern Pacific still got the narrow corridor in the tropics of those warm waters compared to average as well. South Pacific, the oceanic heat content really starting to take a little bite out of it there on the southern side near Vanuatu, so it is starting to decrease. In the Eastern Pacific, not much has changed since our last update. We've still got a few hotspots there, a little bit further out to sea, a little bit south. And in the Western Pacific, certainly got that large area there of very high oceanic heat content, but the other conditions still need to come together to start seeing those storms. Atlantic, off Jamaica once again, is the real place to be right now for the oceanic heat content. It is slowly starting to expand into the Gulf of Mexico now, though, with those warmer waters. So let's check the GFS computer model over the next 5 days. Well, it's not very confident at all now about the Eastern Pacific. GFS has been a big cheerleader for this storm in the last few days, but now the answer is no to either of them, in fact. The Euro model isn't showing much better either. The CMC, I believe, still has the storm developing into a quite potent tropical cyclone, and that again is the eastern one that we're talking about there, but the GFS here, a complete absence of any cyclones. Looking at Cyclone Ialy there, moving westwards, and GFS reckons it will get a little bit stronger, but it's certainly at odds with what we're looking at on satellite imagery. Eventually it'll take a sharp turn towards the north. And then we see that other system down the right hand side developing, possibly a brief tropical storm, certainly not a very organised one by the looks of things, and maybe more than brief actually there, as it starts eastwards and then eventually turns southwards. Just looking on the left again, Ialy, some of its remnant energy could reach the coast of Somalia, and probably that's going to be north of the equator by then, so that will be interesting to watch. And this is the rainfall expectations for the next 7 days then, and the rainfall footprint for Cyclone Ialy certainly has shrunk, and this is considering if the wind shear doesn't win, which it currently is. If the storm gets all of that convection back, then we could still be looking at 18 inches of rainfall not far from Grand Terre. That is getting on for nearly 450 millimeters, and similar amounts off the east coast of Madagascar, not quite related to the storm, but certainly getting high there as well. Grand Comore getting half an inch, which is less than 20 millimeters. So let's check the longer range. It's the Atlantic that we're actually looking at in the longer range, because there's a little hint there of a potential spin up just south of Hispaniola. We're not marking it or anything like that yet, but it's something to watch on the models a little bit later on, I reckon. Could be just a little hint of a very brief development there. Once it passes Hispaniola, it looks like it broadens out a lot and becomes non-tropical. So only a very short window for that system, and probably shows how desperate we are to be looking for anything right now, because that's why we've got it there. The only other thing in the medium range is the Indian Ocean as a whole there, either side of the equator. First of all, that system that we were talking about, 93S, moving on towards the south, and eventually it does manage to become a tropical storm maybe more than once. And then looking further north though, the more interesting system, but probably less confidence in even on this one, no confidence on this one, a very large tropical cyclone there, sweeping up the Bay of Bengal and making landfall in West Bengal in India. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look of all our items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. Our still waiting for Hone t-shirts are still out there as well, and if you don't get it, then I can't help you at this point. It's been nearly 5 years we've been waiting for that storm. In the South Indian Ocean, just looking at the Scilly range here, there's really nothing else to look at apart from the remnant of 93S there becoming non-tropical, and you can just see its circulation, what's left of it, trailing along there, moving westwards, becoming extremely broad, and eventually getting close to Madagascar, so it almost does a whole loop round the basin. But really, threat to land on that one in any case is near zero. So what happened on this day? It was certainly a stronger display in the tropics. It was in the North Indian Ocean. It wasn't that long ago. On May 17th, 2021, we had Cyclone Taute about to make landfall along the coast of India, and it was a Category 4. A powerful storm. Not that many that get that close to the west coast of India at that strength, but this one certainly did. And it really doesn't feel like 3 years already since that storm. I remember when we covered it live here on Force 13 with extensive coverage as we watched the water overflow the coastal regions there in Mumbai and beyond. Well, we are code blue for Ialy, but the first name on the Atlantic naming list this year is Alberto. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Aletta, and in the Central Pacific, it is still Hone. 17 storms so far this year, and we are falling even further behind in terms of accumulated cyclone energy compared to average, 42% below the normal for this time of year. Iwiniar is the first name on the West Pacific naming list this year, and Rimal is next up in the North Indian Ocean. So in the Southwest Indian Ocean, if we can squeeze out another storm, it's going to be Jeremy. In the Australian region, next is Robin, and in the South Pacific, it's Pitta. That's all from today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Become an Ultimate Fan today.